Started.
Idimart. Idimart or Edimart. E4, let's see. Didn't I play a Sicilian recently? How about a French defense? Then normal French. Been seeing a lot of unusual second moves from white here. Ways of avoiding the French. Okay, the French exchange. So we'll see. This French exchange doesn't promise a whole lot for white, but it's a solid way to play, and white still has the usual opening advantage. He has that extra move. And so while it's nothing to be afraid of, you still have to keep on your toes. So what do I want to do? Got the bishop and knight reasonably well placed. The thing is, you can put the bishop on d6 because there's no e-pawn coming with tempo to hit it. You can go for c5 for isolated queen's pawn position, but that's probably not good. Just because I'm behind, a little behind in development. How about if I develop this bishop first and then see what he wants to do? He can kind of kick this bishop around. I don't want to trade just yet. And if I go back to g6, maybe he will trade it off. That might be okay for him. But I'm not. I would take with the h-pawn. I think I'm okay. Don't think I'm getting crushed. Yeah, especially if he has to weaken his kingside like that. Maybe there's something I can do here. I could have even considered the sacrifice. I didn't stop to think about that very long, did I? Knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes. I've got the pin on the knight. And the queen coming in. But usually it's not enough. Those things don't tend to work out. Okay, so he's got a knight there installed in an aggressive spot. He might be wanting to push this pawn on a little bit further. I could trade off the light squared bishop right here. But that brings his queen forward, doesn't it? But bishop takes, queen takes, knight here. He could kick it with the f-pawn. If I take this way, he's going to take back with the pawn, and then I can put the knight here. Or is the knight getting trapped there? Let's see, f3, kicking the knight. The knight could go to g3, but then he could move the rook, and then the knight has no escape from that square. And then where else can it go to? Oh, we could go back to g5, to e6. So I should have planned the escape route for the knight before taking there. I just kind of assumed he was going to take right away. Okay, he goes advancing with the pawns. So I need to stop the pawn roller before it becomes a serious issue of taking all the space away from my king.
Server announcement.
So this f-pawn, of course, moving the f-pawn is weakening, but I think I have enough control of this diagonal, and he's weakened his king too. Hopefully I can exploit that at some point. He has the bishop pair. He has more space, and neither of us have completed our development. Okay, so he lets me stick the pawn there. This knight then is as a kind of a trump card in my position. I would say it's a good solid piece there. Can only dislodge it by taking it with the piece, and he doesn't seem to want to do that. So let's develop. You know, I could even consider pushing on with d4, kicking this guy back. Or I could consider putting pressure on the g-pawn, say queen to d7, threatening. No, he can take back with the bishop. The bishop is supporting that guy. Yeah, so he goes there. Now there's a fork here, but is it any good? If I take first, then he could take back with a pawn, and there's no threat. I could move my knight to, this is kind of funny, I could move my knight to g3, hitting his rook. If the rook moves, I can take the bishop Oh, and then he takes back with the knight. I was going to say, then maybe I have the fork. He takes back with the knight. So where does the rook go? The rook would probably go to f3. Knight g3, rook to f3, hitting my knight. Take the light-squared bishop. I think that looks good to me anyway. Get rid of that bishop. And maybe create some weaknesses on the light squares around his king here by taking on g4 at the right time. Maybe queen d7 and pawn takes g4 without that light squared bishop to support it. Let's see, he is looking at my d-pawn. That is true, he's got two pieces on it, so I have to be careful about that. But I think he's got to do something about the various threats. I take the bishop with check. He grabs the pawn, I take the rook. I think I'm okay. Okay, we'll see how this unwinds. But I'm expecting rook to f3, that seems logical. Chase that knight away, and I don't see a problem with that. Knight takes bishop, knight takes, and he gets out of the fork. Pawn to d4, and the bishop can retreat. And he has a passed pawn here. Interesting position. Okay, yeah, he did play that. Okay, so this knight, if I just go back, and then he'll take it off. He'll take something off. So I think I have to go forward. And now I'm expecting knight takes to avoid this fork. And that's what he did. So queen to d7, putting the queen on a light square, stopping the e-pawn from coming forward, and with ideas of taking on g4. If he just pushes on with g5, that might be a bit awkward for me. So he's allowing all of that. So I'll take the knight first, and then take on g4. Yeah, I need to get rid of the knight, because otherwise he can push the f-pawn forward. If I play pawn takes g4, he would have f5 there, trapping my bishop. Well, not trapping it exactly, but maybe a bit dangerous. So whereas here, if he pushes on with f5, I can, I could take his rook. And but also I have bishop and rook on that square, so I can stop that pawn. So I think I came out of these complications okay. And yeah, what's his move here? He needs to move the rook or take the pawn. He decided to move the rook. I should probably still just take that pawn, right? I could take the f-pawn. Maybe that's a better pawn to take. Unless there's a tactic against the loose rook there, which I don't see at the moment. But the f-pawn was part of this f-pawn, e-pawn duo that was looking dangerous. So I thought that was more useful than taking the h-pawn there. Okay, so now I can bring my rook into the game, the last piece it's not playing. I could trade first and then bring the rook in, but I think it's better to bring the rook in first, because if I trade first, his queen can jump in. And now I have a nice perch on what square is that? That is e4. Nice perch on e4 for my bishop. And I'm hitting his bishop, so his queen can't easily jump in. The queen needs to defend the bishop. And my queen is threatening on h3. He's threatening my rook pawn over here, but I don't think he has time to take it. Yeah, that's what I mean. You can't play you can't play that move, right? Unless there's a check here I'm not seeing. They get dropped a piece. You can push the, what he was doing, yeah, he was lining up behind the e-pawn so he could push it forward. It made sense, but need to be more careful about how he did it. There we go. Now I'm rounding up that e-pawn so I can breathe a little bit easier around my king. And okay, he's still defending that. Let's get my queen in the game. Let's see. Let's think about this. Maybe this way. It's just when he pushes that pawn, his queen is going to be looking at the c7 pawn here. And it's not so much about the pawn, but I don't want his queen invading and giving checks on the back rank here. Okay, let's take the material off and play with queen and bishop against queen.
Check.
Okay, where can I drive his king to? He can go there or he can come out in the open. Yeah, he went there. Yes, it's not so clear, really. Okay, so he's still not immediately invading with his queen. And now this queen and bishop duo is very dangerous, so he may just have to drop his queen back to defend the second rank. So I don't think he could play. For example, if he pushes on with e6, he did. Okay, well, let's calculate this. Check here. The king has to move because the queen can't interpose. The king goes to the back rank, goes to g1, in fact, is the only move, king g1. Then what? Then queen here, check. The king can go back where it was. Okay, I can check here. Drive the king back. Check again. Check again. Get to a dark square. That's really funny. Isn't there something here? Probably is. Let's see. I could arrange to take some pawns over here with check, I guess.
Check. Check.
I wonder what this endgame is like. You know, I could just go into the endgame. He's got these two pawns. Yeah, that's what I should do. I should round up some pawns and then go into the endgame.
Check.
The king can't come forward because the queen and the bishop are guarding all of these squares. The king has to go back. My king is still in the square of this pawn, very important. Now I get this check.
Check.
That's what I was angling for. And when his king comes to second rank, I can take here with check. Take the b pawn with check.
Check.
Okay, so now I could just force the endgame, right? With queen here, check. Queen takes, bishop takes, king takes. My king comes over here. His king comes forward. I round up this pawn. He's got, I have 2-on-1 over here. And four, yeah, that's easily
Check.
winning endgame. Let's just play it out. Play it out that way. I didn't even need to grab that pawn. In retrospect, it was not necessary. I just had to have my king closer to this pawn than his king, so well, enough closer that I can take it before he can defend it. And he really has no counterplay. Pawns on both sides of the board. It's kind of close. You think his king is so far away and mine is so close, but you see it's only by one step that I was able to grab that pawn. Probably still a win, even if I couldn't grab that pawn. But of course, this is a simple one. Okay, he is giving up on these pawns, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on to the G pawn here. Let him take that one if he wants. And I'm going to queen the D pawn. If he pushes his H pawn forward, I can always just take it. If I let him take both those pawns, I still probably queen first, but that's you know, then I have to count. There. No, I don't need to count. This C pawn is further away from his king than the D pawn, so he's outside the square of that. And I'm inside the square of this pawn.
White resigns.
Okay, good game. I will upload this and do a postmortem. See you guys later. Bye.